It is time once again for the weekly closes on our favorite Bitcoin miners. But before we get going, check out the channel memberships, especially the stalagmite level. That's where you get your most bang for your buck with the real-time trade posts and the members-only videos. And if we get up to 10,000 subscribers before the end of the year, I will open up those posts to all paid tiers through the end of 2025. If it happens in 2026, I'll open it up for a month. Go ahead and check those out. We've been doing some really good stuff in there. All right, so first of all, we're gonna start with CleanSpark as usual. This week we ended up down 0.82%. We're looking a bit toppy out here right now. If I do the draw on page, let's see right here, around here, we're looking a little bit toppy there. I don't love it. I feel like we might be entering into a sideways stage like we did back here in was this 2024? I'm getting that vibe a little bit from this price action right now, and I don't particularly love it. What I'm gonna need to see some things to think that that's not happening. But right, we drove up real high, and then we just kind of went back and forth, making slight marginally higher highs and about the same low for a really long time, for like half a year. So hopefully we're not seeing something like that right now. I'd like to see this thing push and really push high here in the next week or two. But the fast stochastics are pink while the slow is green, and we saw that before back here in December 2023, where it was a similar sort of push up sideways and then a dip before another rip. So we'll see what this is going to bring us on CleanSpark. I am looking here at the volume profile at about I'm looking at about 1650 to 1750 in that range there, to give me a an area of like we might bounce around between 17 and about 1650 there. If we lose that, I'm looking down at 12. So that would suck. That would suck pretty bad. Let me see what happens if I bring in all this old price action. What do we got here? Nothing really changes. As long as we're above 1760, we're kind of in a positive move up. Now you can see that the RSI is at 75, so that is a bit hot, but it could go as high as 80 or even in some cases as high as 90. So it's not, it's not indicative of a coming fall. Touching the top of this Bollinger Band, though, is a little bit concerning. You can see we often go sideways for long periods of time after hitting that. So I'm a little bit concerned about that, or at least dipping. So hopefully this was the dip. Hopefully we now get the rip. We're going to watch that on CleanSpark pretty carefully. But all all of the SMAs and EMAs are all in the right order, though. We got the 200, the 50, the 20, the 9, all stacking up, going straight up. And we've seen that before. So hopefully we see like a bit of a dip, maybe come back, touch the 9, and then boom, take off. That'd be ideal, because we did do that already. So it'd be nice to just see it rip roar right up, especially if we get some AI deals coming through on CleanSpark. So we're watching that. As a result of CleanSpark, we're looking at the warrants. Now I did load up last week at 62, so I did some selling at 75-ish. I bought some back up at around 62. Why at 62? Well, 62. 618 is that 618 fib around about there, so I bought a bunch there. Not a bunch, but I reloaded a little less than half of what I'd sold there, and I'm looking to maybe reload there again. I like this long wick on bottom. I don't love this candle or this candle formation. It is giving me some PTSD there. So I would like to see it get up and above 98 cents. I'd like to see that. In fact, now I could move this just a little bit higher, because we did go a little bit higher. There we go, about 102. I'd like to see us go above 102, close the candle, and then we're open up to 126, potentially even $2 on that. And that's how I'm playing CleanSpark right now. I'm not really messing too much with the options on CleanSpark, as much as I'm just buying warrants when they get low enough for me to want to buy them. In this case, 62 was that low enough for me. All right, let's go move on to Mara. How's Mara doing? This is going to be lots of lines, guys, lots of lines. Let me turn these off for a second. All right, Mara. So yeah, Mara's kind of all over the place. It still hasn't really seen much appreciation, considering it's the largest Bitcoin miner around with the largest treasury. So I'd really like to see it perform as such, and it is moving into AI as well. They did a partnership with a European AI company. I think they need to get some more in the US, and that would get them a little more movement in the direction that we want to see. I really want to see this 20-week move above the 50-week. That would be ideal, and I would like to see this 20 flatten out. As long as, though, we're holding above like $19, I'm not super scared of this, because we fall below 19, then we go to 17, we lose 17, we go back down to 1580. So in this instance, I really need to see it get up and above 25. Like 25 is really the area. It's got to make some moves above. And again, we are hitting that top Bollinger Band again. And every time we hit that very top Bollinger Band, which is that dotted line at the top there, we do see some kind of significant drops. We may see rips soon after, but we do see some significant drops. So now we've touched it 3 weeks in a row without any significant drops. Now we might do with the global liquidity. If you remember the global liquidity going into next week, we should be seeing that. Why does this look different than on Bitcoin? That's weird. Okay, anyways, we should be seeing this. Let me go to the daily. 1 day. It should be the same on every. There it is. Okay. Going into next week, we do see this like a quick sharp rise and then dip into the end of November or the beginning of November. So we might get that. We might get this pop back up to the top of the Bollinger Band and then a rip all the way back down, which in this case would probably be about $16 on Mara. So I'm watching that pretty carefully. I'm watching global liquidity very carefully. I am very skittish at this point in time in the cycle, especially with things that like I just bought. Like if I just bought something, if it goes up 50, if it rips 50 to 100%, I'm going to sell most of it, or at least half. I'm going to do that. I did that with Bitfarms, and we'll talk about that in a second. But yeah, it is rising. We are in a rising channel on Mara, and let me draw it right here. Let me get this, draw it right about there. We're in a rising channel on Mara, about right there, like that. There it is. And we're in the middle of it right now. So we could turn around, come back down to the bottom, which would be about $17, and then push higher again, which would be 26. And that would get us into this larger ascending channel up here. Let me hide the indicator so you can actually see it. This larger ascending channel that we've been trying to get back into for a while now. And you might notice this is looking a little bit like a bit of a double bottom that if we reach it, we could go as high as $30 off of. That would be nice. And I think we're not going to stop at 30. I think that we'd push to the top of this channel, which would be about 42. So I'm really looking at Mara to give me about 42 by the end of the year. That's really what I'm looking for out of Mara. I will be willing to accept defeat if it seems as though I have been defeated on this one, and that's okay. I've made money on Mara. I'll make money on something else if Mara, it's not going to work out for me anymore. We'll see. I am kind of looking over to this little section right here for ideas of how we're reacting right now, and let me paint that fractal for you. Something about right there. And if we stretch it out just a smidge, there we go. Oh, look how just like nicely that lines up almost perfectly. And that goes up to that $30 level. And in this case, it rolled over, but that was, the end of July, right? Where we went into August and October, which is the dip zone. So we're doing this move here going into October, November. So we might see it just rip right up to 40. So I'm paying attention to that on Mara. Mara, I've been kind of taking positions on slowly as we go through day by day. And if you're in Stalagmite, you see that. Okay, let's go take a look at Hive. I did add to Hive last week as well on the dip. There was that dip day. I bought it. And it's already up 50-ish%. I think I sold one. I think I sold 25% of what I had. I didn't buy a lot. I sold about 25% of what I had for Hive after it did the rip, like the 1 day rip. So that was nice. So let me go ahead and turn this off, high drawings for a second. So yeah, on the weekly, yeah, everything's kind of trying to point straight up. The 200 still coming down, but it's getting behind that move. We came off of the top Bollinger Band, we came down to the 9 and started pushing back up again, and that's why I got behind it. Now, I would like to see the stochastic turn yellow. That stochastic turns yellow. I'd be watching Hive to move up to 9, 10, maybe even $15. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised to see this thing hit $15. I mean, Wulf was, it went way higher, so Hive has the room to do it. And this is looking a bit like a bull flag, so I like it. As long as it's above $4, I'm feeling pretty good about it. Below $4, it's going to hit 3. Below 3, it's going to hit 220. Above 7, though, clear skies. Clear skies above 7. And we can just, as you can see with Hive back here, it can push into that top Bollinger Band and just keep pushing through it. So I'm not too concerned about it. I am looking to potentially accumulate a little more Hive potentially. And if you're in Stalagmite, you'll hear about exactly when I do that. And I wouldn't be surprised to see, especially after this little break here, this sideways move, touch on the 9, I wouldn't be surprised to see this push right through the top Bollinger Band, especially once we're above that $7 range, and then just push into the teens on Hive. So I'm watching that real carefully. Bitfarms. All right, so I got behind Bitfarms on the dip. So let's go to the daily. I can show you what I looked at. So see this? This is very controlled. Came down to the 20, hit the 20, got a green candle. I got behind it, and boom, it popped. It went up over 50% in a day. I sold half of it right away off of that. I do think it could go higher, but I've been burned by Bitfarms plenty of times. to where I get 50%. I'm going to take a good chunk off the table and let the rest ride. We came back to a 50 tap on the RSI. I would like to see this turn yellow. This turns yellow here. The fast stochastics turn yellow, and I'm looking at this same move back here that we went from $3 to $6, but in this case, I'm looking at $4 to about $8 to $10 on this one as soon as this turns yellow again, and I'd be getting behind Bitfarms one more time for that in that instance here. So that's pretty great, and I would absolutely sell it again. Bitfarms, I really think that Bitfarms, with how it's been changing and making, doing a lot better lately with a lot of its stuff, I wouldn't be surprised to see them hit like a $5 billion market cap and push upwards of $10 on Bitfarms, maybe even a little higher. So I'm watching Bitfarms very carefully. I'm strategically buying and selling Bitfarms. It is not like a high conviction play. I will sell it quickly. I will get behind a rip, and I'll sell I'll sell it as soon as it feels like it's getting toppy. And that's kind of how I've been operating on this one. You can see this is looking a bit like, as soon as this weekly turns yellow again, like look at it, it's pink right now and coming down, and the green is squeezing. So I don't love that. I don't love that. But it could be a scenario like back here in 2023 where we got that pink and the green squeezed a little bit, and then it turned green on yellow again, and we just ripped from 98 cents to $2. So like we went up another 100%, which in this case would be about $9. So watching that one pretty carefully as well. And I have a few Bitfarms. I have a little bit of Bitfarms. Iren's been so hard to get behind. Look at that. Look at the strength on this thing. That is so. They tried to sell it down to the 9 and just bought it all the way back up. This thing ever hits the 9 weekly, it looks like it's a buy. Now it's at 93. I cannot buy something that is on a 93 RSI on the weekly. I just can't. I'm sorry, I can't. If you want to do it, that's on you. Have fun, enjoy. I hope you do well. I can't do it. The momentum on the stochastics look a little sick. They look a little sick. Iren's had an insane run. It could keep going. It absolutely could keep going. I regret, selling in the teens after buying in the 6s, selling in the teens like twice. I bought in the 6s and sold in the teens twice. I regret that now because I had hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of these things. That would have been a lot of money. So yeah, and it just straight up. This is the most parabolic thing I think I've ever seen. This thing is wild. Iren's, it's just showing so much strength, so much strength. The 9 was the buy. The 9 weekly was the buy. Now I have no idea. I have no idea what this thing's going to do. Is it going to keep going? Is it going to fall? I have no clue. But it looks impressive. It looks impressive. It came down to this line and bounced right back above the third angle again. It's insane. I will say if it closes above 64, 74, it'll hit just like it did back here again. If it closes above 74, you better believe we're going over $100 on Iren. So keep your eyes on Iren, but personally, it's a little too hot for me. It's a little too hot for me. All right. HUT went up 17% on Friday. It's down 1.65% on the week, but look at this same strength as Iren, but much lower price still, and lower market cap. It's only got 5 billion, whereas Iren I think is almost at 20 now. It's at 17. Iren's at $17 billion market cap. Anyways, HUT, similar kind of strength. RSI at 78, could push to 90. This stochastic, I'd like to see that turn yellow. In fact, I'd probably go to like a 3-day or even a 1-day. Like maybe not the 3-day. That might take too long. The 1-day, yeah. The 1-day is yellow. I'd like to see this start to the slow starting to tighten up a little bit. But yeah, HUT, yeah, boom. I'd see it pushing up to 60 easily. I don't see HUT not doing that. Especially since it's got connections to the the White House, the presidential administration. So I'd be looking at that. Yeah, I like HUT. Looks good. I don't know what else to say about that. CAN. Ooh, man, can we do it? Yeah, CAN's been very interesting. So I bought CAN down here at about 78 cents. I bought a whole bunch of call options. I've been selling them along the way. I've sold about 40-ish% of what I bought of CAN for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of percent gain. It was like 400 or 500% gain. It's been beautiful. It's been wonderful. We hit the 200-week moving average, and we dumped off of that. So that sucks. We're below this little thing here. So as long as we're above 179, as long as we're holding 179, on CAN, I'm feeling fine about it. If we lose that, it goes down to 130. If it goes down to 130 before mid-November, I'd be a buyer of it for a move back up to 180. I'd really like to see it close above 220. I'd really like to see that because that would open it up to 330 and then eventually possibly even like $4 or $5, and that would make my my call options worth a whole heck of a lot of money. So it'd be exciting. So I've made money on this. My cost basis is completely out of it. I've taken some profits on it, and the rest I'm just going to let ride. I may reload it. with some of the profit. I've taken some of that profit, moved it over to the next one in line, and we'll talk about that as well. But Can's looking, there's a doji up here, so it looks like it wants to take a rest. Looks like it wants to take a rest, but if you look back here, this formation that we're looking at right now, let me just do draw on screen. This formation that we're looking at right here is not too different from this one back over here, right? Where we got that big, large push. But we are above the Bollinger Band right now. We're above the weekly Bollinger Band. So it would stand to reason that we'd come back and test down here and then push higher afterwards. It would stand to reason to do that, to come back, at least touch the 9. Let's look at the daily real quick, see how that's looking. We're the 9, 174, like we're right in the 9. As soon as we lose this 9, we're going to drop down to the 20 at 150-ish, maybe even wick down to 132 on CAN. So I'm a little bit weary here and there. I'd like to see it kind of go sideways a bit through next week, and then like in November just push on CAN. Otherwise, I might be doing some cutting on CAN. Let's take a look at ARBK. So this is where I rolled a lot of my profits from CAN. I rolled some of my profits from CAN to this one. You can see that we already had this blow off top. It started coming back down, touched the 9-week and bounced. And it's currently sitting on the 50-week moving average. We came down to this big volume structure here and bounced. I'd like to see it, I'm down on this position right now, but I'd like to see it push 60 cents and beyond. If it can push over 64 cents, I can see it fighting its way up to about 92 because there's not a lot of volume there. Up to 92, not a lot of volume. I can see this being $1. I mean, it's touched $1 before and wicked down. So I wouldn't be surprised at all to see this thing come down. And it filled this gap down here. It filled this gap this week, filled the gap, and now it can push back up. Maybe it'll hit $1. There's a big gap right here that goes all the way up, a fair value gap that goes up to $1.02. I'd like to see, no, actually $1.04. So I'd like to see it fill that to the upside. And then once we're done with that, is there any other gaps over there that it hasn't filled? I don't see any other big, nasty, glaring gaps over here on the left. So maybe not. I mean, maybe if we get really, really lucky in the blow off, it'll push up to 320 and fill this little, that's not a gap. Nope, never mind. No gap. No, there's this gap right here, but that got filled. Nope, no gaps. No gaps anywhere. So yeah, it could just, maybe it'll push up to about 107 and stop. Maybe we'll get some strength and see it push all the way up to like $2-3. I don't know. But I threw about $800-900 into this thing from the profit that I got from CAN, and I'm gonna just let it rip. I'm gonna let it rip. If it goes up to 300%, I'll take my cost basis, and I'll let it continue to rip from there. Otherwise, I'm not too concerned about this losing money. Honestly, I'm not too concerned about losing money because it's all just profit anyways. And I've got plenty of other profits sitting on that's sidelined in real assets that aren't, lotto plays. So not too concerned. Soluna, I like Soluna a lot still. I still like Soluna a lot. All right, remember they're building out about 2 gigawatts of energy. All right, they're really good at making deals on energy. They've been doing exceptionally well since they bottomed out. Now, if you remember, if you've been here for a while, you know that I was a buyer back here in this like flat section here around $3, and then it dropped to 20 cents. It dropped to about 20 cents from there. 36 cents from there. I did sell it, so I bought in at 3. I bought it like 200-300 of them down here at $3. And then it did one of these dips down to like 50%. I let it all go. It ripped, and I said, "Oh, that sucks." And then it started coming down. Came down into the 30-40 cent range. I started picking it up at 50 cents again. I said, "You know what? I'm interested in this again. It's been flat for a really long time. We're getting towards the very end of the cycle. I think it might run." So I bought a whole bunch, a couple thousand down at like the 50 cent range, and it just rip-roared up. I sold a little more than half of that so far at hundreds and hundreds of percent gain. So I'm pretty happy about that. I am holding on to the rest. I'm pure profit right now on this one, and I'm just kind of letting it hit the top Bollinger Band and come back, hit it, and come back, hit it, and come back. I'm still expecting one last final push on this guy, which would be similar to like back here. I'm looking for something similar to like back here, like some of these candles that are up 52, 44%, 120% in a week. I'm looking for those candles to come through here, just like they did in 2021. I'm looking for those candles because look at these. These are minuscule by comparison. These are minuscule. These are teeny tiny candles. I mean, this thing could, in one of those candles would take us up to $40 from where we currently are, and we'd still just be hitting the beginning of the previous bull run on this thing. So I'm letting my profit sit and ride on Soluna. It does look like it's in a position where it's probably going to do some dropping still. We might come back down to 232, bounce off the 9. I'd really like to see it hold 260, but it could hit 232, bounce off the 9, and continue. If we lose the 9, yeah, we're going to come back down to about 90 cents. So pay attention to that if you're not in profit on that bad boy, or if you haven't taken out your cost basis. Pay attention to that. Of course, nothing I say is financial advice and not a suggestion to buy, sell, or hold any asset whatsoever. You got to do your own research, come to your own conclusions. Ultimately, you are responsible for all of the risk that you are taking, and you could lose it all because investing is risky. All right, take a look at Btdr. Btdr, again, it's just like all the others here. It's hitting that top Bollinger Band, and it looks like it wants to come back to the 9-ish. It did, kind of. It came back to this little structure here on the right on the volume profile and bounced. I'm thinking we might see a sideways week next week. If we don't see a dip, we're going to probably see a sideways week next week. And then once we get into the first week of November, we might continue to see a bit more sideways action, and then a rip through the end of the year. That's kind of what I'm expecting to see. And what I really like to see, the momentum is good. The stochastic is doing a bull flag motion. RSI is kind of relaxing just under overbought, and it looks like it's ready to reignite at a moment's notice. All of these are looking that way. Take a look at Riot. Riot didn't even touch the top Bollinger Band this week, so that's not bad. Came back down to the 9. I'd be looking at this one to possibly push up while the others are going sideways, to be honest. Yeah, the volume, the BX Trender took a break the week before last, and then last week it pushed up again. We're slightly overbought. We're at 74 on the our side. This looks like a bull flag on the stochastics. All I got to see is the wide start to expand again. And if we go to like a 3-day or something, let's take a look at 3-day. 3 days expanding to the downside. What about a 1 day? 1 day is also expanding to the downside, but it's starting to clamp a little bit. So on the 1 day, if on the 1 day we see the slow turn green again, I'd say that our Riot's done coming down is going to pop up pretty aggressively. That's what I would be saying on that. Okay. That's right. Let's take a look at Cifr. Cifr's been getting a lot of buys. It was up 19% on Friday. Look at that. Look at that. 10% in the week. The week before it was 10%. It was 10% the week before, and the week before that was 15. The week before that was 15 again. So that's pretty. Cifr has been getting a lot of institutional buying. Cifr is going wild. Cifr is going absolutely nuts. Came to the 9 again, close to the 9, popped up. This thing's got so much strength behind it. Again, I can't buy this though. The RSI is at almost 90. The thing is just riding in that top Bollinger Band. It is insane. Yeah, I can't buy it, but I love the way it looks. I love the way it looks. Like if we get a dip down to like 1544, maybe I could get behind it. Maybe, but I'm already leveraging everything else that I'm looking at. So like if you're in this, great. Like I mean, I've been saying for a long time, ever since back here, I've always said that this was one of the best charts I've seen in a while since back here, since it's just so consistently in the channel. Then we lost the channel, we gained it right back. Then we lost the channel. Every time we lost the channel, it came back with such aggression. I'd say Cifr by far is one of the most beautiful charts on the Bitcoin mining space, just because it held this channel really well. Every time it lost the channel, it came back aggressively, and this final time it lost the channel, and just so aggressive to the upside. It's insane. So hopefully some of you got in there around $2 and are writing it up into 20 now. That's amazing. That's a 10x right there. Beautiful. Core Z, I think they made a deal with CoreWeave. They're finally banging that out there, so it's finally starting to move again. Again, I'm not touching this one just because they're in the talks. They're potentially going to be bought out, so I don't really see any purpose of purchasing this one right now. Their warrants also looking pretty good if you were in those. I mean, especially if you were bottom down at like the $2 level or back here at like the 74-cent level, like that's looking pretty good. That's kind of what I'm hoping is going to happen with my CleanSpark warrants once they actually start getting that AI rolling. Wulf. Look at Wulf. Wulf. I like Wulf actually. I like Wulf here. Let me turn on the drawings. Yeah, it came back to try to back test this little box here and bounced. We see a closure above 1450. I'm looking for a move to 16, or if it's anywhere near $12, I'm looking for a move back to 1450. Above 16.23 on Wulf. I like that. We had this rising wedge. We started closing candles above that rising wedge, so I'm a little weary of that. If we come back below the rising wedge, I would expect it to hit 12, maybe even 9. But as long as it's holding above this rising wedge little pattern right here, I'm really not too concerned. I can see it pushing, especially if it gets above $16.19. I'm really looking for it to move into the mid-20s here. Now, RSI is looking overheated, heavily overheated. Okay, got to watch for that. Stochastics look like they want to do at least some kind of sideways action, as well as the BX Trender. That also looks like it wants to do some kind of sideways action. So I would be waiting. I would be waiting for at least a closure over 1450, preferably a closure over 1619 for Wulf to get any continuation. What about BT? They're all Ethereum based now, so we had that falling wedge. We came out of that. I didn't get behind it because I'm in BMNR mostly. Doji here. I don't love these wicks on top. I actually really hate those a lot. Yeah, and we're in another like rising wedge pattern now on a larger scale here. So yeah, I don't love it. I don't love this thing. Now this does look a little cup and handly. So if we can get a closure above 439, I'd be looking for a push to about $6. But beyond that, I mean, the BX trender looks good. The RSI is not overbought. The stochastics are pointing straight up. So yeah, I mean, this looks good. It looks good on a momentum level. It's holding above this volume structure on the volume profile, holding above that very well, actually. So if I can see it get just a little push up, I would expect it to launch somewhere around $6 or so. Like especially like let's go to the top of this. Yeah, that'd be about $6. This formation down here up and then a dip and then another rip. I'd be looking for it to push about $6. CANG. This one's been a sleeper for a long time. Let me draw this line here now. This one's been a sleeper. I think at some point it's going to wake up. This is the only one near the bottom Bollinger Band. Only one near the bottom Bollinger Band here for the Bitcoin miners. I do expect once it breaks this line, it's going to push up to this line. If it breaks this line up here, then we are going to see this thing, I think, do a parabolic move up 8, maybe even as high as 12 or 13 bucks. Look at this. The slow stochastics are looking good. This is looking like a bull flag type of activity out of the fast stochastics here. It went yellow and then pink, and then once that turns yellow again, I would expect it to go higher. Especially once we see this BX trender give me like 1-2 weeks of light red, I would expect it to start trending higher a bit quickly. So I'm watching that one as well for a potential roll of some of my profits into it. MSTR, we'll look at MSTR real quick. MSTR on the weekly, look how it's playing to the, so let me turn off my indicators on here for just a second. Look how it's playing so well to this fractal, right? Like, look, it played it out a bit higher, but look, it followed it up, followed it down. It should start following it up now, where it'll probably come up to about 400, and then I'm expecting somewhere around December, late November, December, for it to trend down aggressively, and very aggressively is what I'd be looking for on MSTR. So we're watching that pretty carefully on MSTR. I do expect it to soon maybe give us a bounce. I do expect it to give us some kind of a bounce soon with Bitcoin push up. I want to see 335. I want to see about 389. I want to see it hit close to 400 up here on this volume spike on the right here, the uppermost one. I want to see it hit that. And then I wouldn't be surprised to see it roll over and come back to the 200 week somewhere around by that time, probably closer to like 150, 170, maybe something like that. Yeah, maybe like 170. And then from there, we start the cycle anew. So we're watching that very, very carefully. Anyways, that's all I've got for you today. Go ahead and smash that like button. Subscribe if you haven't done so already. Get us to that 10,000 subscribers. Leave a comment. Which of these Bitcoin miners are you invested in? Which do you want to see rip? And with that said, have a profitable day.